Hello, everyone, and welcome to Exploring Cinema. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
And with our second movie of the month, I believe, a little later than we had intended, but here it is. Today, we are talking about Ivan's Childhood, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, the great Russian filmmaker. This was his debut as well, from 1962. Adam, what is Ivan's Childhood all about?
Yes. Ivan's Childhood, 1962. During World War II, Soviet orphan Ivan Bondarev strikes up a friendship with three sympathetic Soviet officers while working as a scout behind the German lines.
All right. So, just kind of kick things off a little bit before we get into the at-a-glance stuff. Dylan, you had seen two Tarkovsky movies, which is two more total than Adam and I had seen. So, I guess coming into this, what were you expecting? It's shorter than the two behemoths you had watched before.
Yes, and it was much less dense, a lot less kind of dialogue. Both Stalker and Solaris have a lot of deep philosophical conversations where one guy is just going off for what feels like 5 minutes, and then the other guy goes off for 3 minutes, and then it's like a 20-minute scene of them talking about existentialism. And I liked that this didn't have any of that. It just kind of breezed. This felt like it went by quicker and was just a much kind of easier to consume. It was kind of like, it felt like he was restrained by kind of the simplicity of the story, which actually I think was a good thing because I feel like the movie had a kind of a good balance. So, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get into that more, obviously.
And the black and white was different because the other two were in color that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just assumed all of his movies were in black and white. Were they anything like Bergman movies? Because I've always kind of had those two together in my mind, I've seen like 4 Bergman movies, I think, and no Tarkovsky movies. So I just kind of thought every Tarkovsky movie feels like it's going to be the Seventh Seal. And I'm not really sure if that's true, but
yeah, I kind of get them mixed up sometimes as well. And I know we both watched Persona around the time when I was watching Solaris and Stalker, so got them mixed up. But yeah, I can see how they're similar, but I'd have to see more Bergman to kind of get a grasp on what the
for
style
sure. And
is.
I'm sure some more educated people might tell us their styles are nothing alike,
nothing at all,
perhaps. But I've always kind of held them as like the like master's degree level of movie watching. Kind of like they've always just felt like the two hardest to crack for me. So
that's fair.
Before we get into any more of that, at a glance, Ivan's Childhood, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky in 1962. I could find not a lot of information on the budget of this movie, except that Adam and I discovered that it came in 24,000 rubles under budget.
Nice. Way to go, Tarkov. That's why he was allowed to keep making movies.
Yep. And it finished filming, I think, like 8 months before it was supposed to.
Nice.
I don't know. Which also seems like, what kind of schedule did they have for this kind of movie?
Yeah, what did they think it was going to take? 8 months?
Stage a whole
maybe the movie was supposed to be like 3 hours long, and he just was like, you know what? This works.
This is it. I wanted this.
Yeah,
we did some quick math and some quick Google conversions of what that 24,000 rubles in 1962 looks like, and it's about $500,000 US dollars. So $500,000 under budget. That's good. It's in Russia. That's helpful.
And then also like box office stuff, very hard to find. All I could see was that it sold 16.7 million tickets in the Soviet Union.
Interesting, but no idea on how much a ticket cost.
They didn't tell me that.
Or like how many people could actually afford to go to the movies in the 60s in Russia.
Yeah, or if those numbers were accurate or if they were totally inflated.
It's from the Soviet Union in the 60s. I'm not fully trusting the information we're being given. I'm just relaying the little crumbs that I was able to find. So then this is a very well-reviewed movie, by the way. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, an 8 on IMDb, a 4.2 on Letterboxd. It won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival.
Oh,
and The Independent called it, quote, the most lyrical war movie ever made.
It is pretty lyrical.
Dylan's considering it.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that assessment.
Motion passed.
Can't disagree.
Yeah.
So before we get any further, I want to remind people or encourage people to like and subscribe. So help the channel grow, get updated whenever we do one of these deep dives into a movie. We generally try to do one about once a week. Got kind of thrown off that a little bit in January, but for the most part, we've been able to keep up with that schedule pretty well. And then with that in mind, our next movie, we like to let people know what we'll be watching or reviewing next, sticking with our monthly theme of movies about children that are not necessarily kids movies. It's not to say they can't be appreciated by kids as well. Something like Paper Moon absolutely can be, but something that's also accessible for adults. I think we'd all agree that Ivan's Childhood is not a kids movie.
I don't know, man. I think your nephew might get a kick out of it next time you're hanging. Hey, you want to watch a kids movie?
I'm trying to just ruin his life.
Yeah.
Never fight the Germans. I don't.
All right. The next movie that we will be reviewing is Where is the Friend's House? Directed by Abbas Kiarostami.
Yep. Nailed it.
Yeah, that was flawless, obviously. I've actually seen 2 of this guy's movies already, which I wasn't fully aware of. So that's interesting, for me at least. Yeah, Where's the Friend's House? Iranian movie from 1987 about an 8-year-old boy who must return his friend's notebook he took by mistake, lest his friend be punished by expulsion from school.
It's a pretty severe crime for stealing your buddy's notebook.
Well, maybe he was a ne'er-do-well, and this was just the last straw. We don't know.
Maybe that's true. Maybe final strike.
We'll find out when we watch the movie.
Yeah, we will.
So, with that all out of the way, on to opening statements. Dylan, you are the resident Tarkovsky expert. I would like to hear from you first.
A precursor to fantastical yet heavy dramas about kids like Pan's Labyrinth and Tigers Are Not Afraid. Tarkovsky showing signs of greatness throughout as he tells a simple story in a beautiful yet horrifying way.
I was really hoping you were going to say a beautiful yet lyrical way.
No, just too late to fit that in there.
He had to make that adjustment on the fly.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much.
But yeah, I did have to add the beautiful yet horrifying because it's definitely, you're getting both here. You're getting a lot of nature shots, a lot of beautiful nature shots, and also dreams and also a lot of, war is hell imagery, a lot of grime and dirt and it's interesting because the imagery is a lot of kind of the aftermath. There's no battles. There's no battles in it. It's just we're seeing the aftermath. We're seeing, the town 3 weeks after everything has been destroyed.
Yeah, after the bombing.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of the war is reaching its end, but definitely not over.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my opening statement.
All right. For me, I'm just gonna say that this is pretty much exactly like what you think a 60s Russian World War II movie is going to be. It's black and white. It's bleak. It's dirty. Definitely like elements of, I don't necessarily want to say like existentialism, but like dream state and
flashbacks. It's like dreams and flashbacks.
Kind of imagination as escapism, and also a place where maybe you can accidentally stumble upon your darkest thoughts and memories as well. So this, honestly, it just fits the poster. Like it fits everything, every image you've seen. It's what you think it's going to be. But that's not a criticism. It's made incredibly well. It's just like, you're not going to, like, if you're turning it on and thinking like, maybe it'll be a little different than what
it's exactly what you think, but it nails it.
Yeah.
So my opening statement in line with that was a bleak story of war, revenge, and a misplaced sense of duty.
Oh, I like that. I like the misplaced sense of duty. Yeah, that
blame the victim, Adam.
Definitely present.
I mean, he's a child, so not really, but you make some bad choices when you're young. You make some bad choices when you're old.
I also feel comfortable saying that Ivan's childhood was very different than mine.
Yes.
For those of you who can't tell just by looking at me, I didn't grow up this way.
So before we get to the defining moments, I just wanted to ask, so your impressions, your first Tarkovsky movie. So just the plot aside and stuff, just from the director kind of eye for the camera, how'd you feel about your first Tarkovsky movie? What'd you come away
Cinematography is really good. I like the staging of everything as well, how they kind of had him either like higher or lower than the adults, depending on kind of the mood of the scene or like the direction the conversation was going. That was really cool. And then just like the dream sequences, and just I've read like synopses of a lot of his bigger movies, like the two you've seen and like Andrei Rublev.
Yeah.
And they all like the synopses for all of those were kind of running through my mind as I was watching Ivan's Childhood and just thinking like, yep, I can totally see how it's the same guy who made this like little 85 or 95-minute movie or whatever it is, 95 minutes, who would go on to make like just more meditative, existential stuff. So you can like see the seeds being planted for like what he's going to grow into, I think.
No, I would agree with that. As someone
and
who has
then,
seen two of them,
but you get it in a way where it's like it's his first movie, and he's just telling this like small story about this kid. So there's not too much else to explore, but he manages to find unique and kind of interesting angles at how to look at this story.
Yeah. I felt like every flashback and dream sequence from the very beginning to the one at the end, I felt like was him kind of showing off and kind of being like, I can do stuff like this, like, and I'm gonna, if you just love this movie, like, I don't go over budget, like, and so I felt like on those you could really see it come through. And then just during the war scenes, I mean, they were very dark and bleak. And there weren't too many parts in there, or there were some where, that's where I felt like the Tarkovsky-ness of it kind of went away, except for a few moments. Two of those two being the kiss, the famous kiss shot in the woods, and just kind of everything leading up to that, just like being out there in the woods with the ash trees, the white ash trees, and just kind of that whole imagery and everything. I'm like, oh, he's flexing really hard right now.
That was the one part of the movie where I was just like, I don't quite understand what's happening, but I'm sure somebody somewhere could tell me that this is a metaphor for just all of World War II or some ridiculous thing that's just way over my head.
The trees are the silent dead tree, basically dead looking trees are all the soldiers that have fallen throughout World War II needlessly, that kind of bleak look at like war is just awful. Yeah.
And then the other thing where you could see the future greatness coming through for sure was in the war scenes, anything involving water, whenever they had to cross the river or cross the stream, just beautiful, just a way of shooting it where you can just feel like the water, like it's just so beautiful, so like just nice to look at. So definitely, if you liked it, it is a stepping stone to what his future movies are like.
Well, that'll lead us straight into defining moments. I just had two.
Okay.
The whole opening dream sequence through crossing the river.
Same. I had that too. Yeah.
It's like setting a tone that just nailed it perfectly. And then, I mean, there are other like really well done moments as well. Just kind of like the way he talks to the soldiers who are like soldiers in charge too. He's not like dressing down privates or whatever. Like he's just straight up like dictating to and like talking down to it's like
his commanding officers.
Yeah. But that aside, the whole sequence where he's kind of playing in the bunker during the bombing.
Yeah, and it's just by himself, like with his
imagination. And it's the only time when he's kind of imagining or pretending that things are more violent than maybe they are, or not than they are, but like it's the only time his imagination leads him into that side of things, I think, like to this degree.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really fascinating. Like the movie does such a good job of balancing how hardened he is with the fact that he is still just 12 years old.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes, I said his imagination is still there, but it's twisted into like horrific revenge war stories. Like he's still a
Yeah.
kid. His imagination is still bursting through, but all the trauma and everything, the only place he can think to put that is just like revenge against the Nazis. Like yeah, I found that was really fascinating.
Yeah, the only time he can escape is like in his subconscious, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And then going back to that first scene, just for me, I mean, yeah, I put the first scene leading into the crossing of the river, but also like just you see it opens and he's playing and he's in the woods and you're like, okay, and then like a minute in, then the camera just like takes off and we just take off with him into the trees, and that's like right away where I was just like, oh man, like he's starting the movie this way, like he's like just like we're flying, we're soaring. It was like Miyazaki-ish. It was just like, and here we go, woo, like fantastical, like right off the bat. Just yeah, great. Yeah, I love that opening. And then I also had the fruit truck, the fruit truck in the rain with the horses.
Yeah, the imagery there was really cool.
The imagery, just the rain, on them, and then he drops them, and
they're
then
losing so many apples.
So many apples, and then the horses are on the beach and they kind of come in and eat them. And I don't know what it was about that, but it was like calming and it was like art.
Yeah, like there's clearly some like subtext and some like other like artsy thing going on. It's like, this is just fun to look at. Like, what does it mean? I have no idea, but I like it.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's kind of like when you go to an art gallery and for whatever reason, this one painting, you just kind of like looking at it.
Yeah,
you don't know if it's like better or worse or whatever, or what makes it different than all the other ones around you, but you just look at it and for whatever reason, you're like, this is how I'm going to spend most of my time in this building, is just staring at this painting.
Yeah, I loved that whole flashback was terrific. Crossing the river at night, especially the second time when like the mission, when we kind of know the stakes and we've kind of spent some time with these people, as opposed to the first at the beginning where you don't really know. That last one when they go across together and then split up and they get pretty like they get shot at, they have to like abandon the boat and swim. Like that whole sequence I felt like was really well done for a movie that again doesn't have any battle scenes. That felt the tension was very, very high.
Yeah.
And then last, of course, the just beautiful ending on the beach. I think that is what will stick with me too. That ending really, that's why I mentioned in my opening statement, Pan's Labyrinth and Tigers Are Not Afraid, because just kind of a way to end the movie on a uplifting, positive, a child's imagination, and it's like, yeah, no, but and we know that actually it's like a tragedy. It's like a lost innocence, and then the way he films it with the long running shot, and then into the tree kind of, and then that's like the black, like just great, just fantastic. Just I love that ending.
Yeah. I had defining moments or defining scenes. I had the final scene, the whole all that stuff we just talked about, and then the one I really had was the scene where they fight about, or he fights with the soldiers about going to military school and like just putting his foot down and being like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, my place is here with you guys doing like the mission. Like my goal is to kill Nazis or to be effective in revenge. Like I don't care about anything else. And they're just like, but you don't understand. Like you can do so much more if you're alive. Like growing up, and you have so much more than just like your family's dead. Like let that be. Unfortunately, it's war. Like let that go. There's more to it. So that whole everything that's happening in that scene, and the way each of them kind of goes like, you're just going to military school. Like, it's not that bad. Or like, hey, like, that's what we're going to do for you. Like, this is great. We all love you. We all care about you. We're going to take care of you. And he's like, no, screw that. All that kind of clashing together, I thought was really, really well done.
Yeah. The balance is interesting too, though, because they keep saying they're going to take him there, but like, and they easily could, but they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. They could put him on a like a truck or something back to, not the front lines. And they just actively are like, well, if you want to be here, I guess, like, be here.
Like, because like they know he's valuable too. I think so. Like they know they shouldn't be using him at all, and they say the right things. And I mean, he wins them over with just the threat that he's just going to run away from military school.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh, okay, I guess 12-year-old, you can decide now.
He got out of the German prison camp, so I mean, I think they're thinking like, you know, I bet you the military camp or the military school isn't going to be that big of a
Well,
deal.
yeah, it's a
You know, like
kind of goes both ways, but it's an interesting decision that they kind of keep putting off in a way
Yeah.
until they can't anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, because then they like really try, and then he's so much more into the mission than like they want him to be, and they're like, I guess we have to let him do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? They just kind of resign themselves to the fact that like we don't really have any authority over this boy, so let's let him do what he wants to do. You know, and if it helps, it helps.
Yeah,
Indeed.
On to questions.
Yeah.
Questions. Who's got one?
I've got one. What was your favorite lyric?
My favorite lyric?
Because this was very lyrical.
Oh,
what was your favorite lyric?
I have no idea how to answer that.
I know.
There's a joke in like the beginning between the soldiers. I think that like it's kind of, I mean, it's not much of a joke. It's more of like dark humor where no one really says too much, but it's kind of funny. I feel like that's probably like where it gets a little bit like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like we're all kind of chummy a little bit. That's probably as good as that gets, but because obviously the rest of the movie is so much more like heavy
for sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what of the dream or flashback sequences, what was your favorite of all the ones? There's the one in the beginning, there's the one with the well, there's the apples on the horses, there's the one at the end. I know I'm forgetting.
I like the end, but I think I'll say the apples and the horses. I think
imagery wise, I like the horses with the apples, but I just, and part of it is just the way that it's cut, but like just the opening one.
Yeah.
And it's not even the part of it, like it's not the dream while we're in it. It's when he wakes up, because it's how the movie starts, and I don't exactly understand what's happening.
Yeah.
It's just the whole way that that's staged, and then just like reality, and he's like sleeping in a barn.
Yeah.
And it just, the combination of that, I still just found like instantly when that cut happened, I was just like, all right, I get it. I've seen like 5 minutes of one of this guy's movies. And this is just really, really powerful way to start a movie.
I know what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's the opening for me. I just think it's great. Like just the first 5 minutes. Yeah, and leading into the title card, and then the slow crossing of the river, just the dread, the fields with dead bodies just laying around. Like, oh my god. Yeah, very, very well done.
I was gonna ask some stuff about war movies, like with kids kind of at the center. But you kind of brought up a couple of them already.
Okay. Yeah.
With Pan's Labyrinth. And but then also, as I was kind of researching some of that, I realized that there are a bunch of these that I just still haven't even seen.
Okay.
Like Forbidden Games, French movie from the 50s, directed by René Clement, about two kids whose parents get killed, and they're like 10 and 5 or something, and they just kind of gotta make their way.
Yeah.
I've never seen Empire of the Sun, that Spielberg movie with Christian Bale. Like Americans kind of get stuck in Japan.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that either.
From the 80s. I mean, I've still never seen Come and See.
Oh yeah, you guys got to see. You got to watch that. I've seen that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's Jojo Rabbit as well, which plays it much differently than a movie like this. Yeah. But then the ones for me that came to mind for the most part were Pan's Labyrinth, and then the Louis Malle movie, Au revoir l'enfance.
Oh, okay.
Which is just and also, I guess like Spirit of the Beehive, which is sort of a like tail end of the war movie.
Okay.
But those are the ones that kind of came to my mind initially. I didn't know if you guys had any others. But
Not
Dylan,
really.
I had that prepared, and you listed two like right away. So
yeah, and I would definitely put Come and See in there. Yeah, I'd have to look it up as far as, because I'm sure there's been other ones, but just coming to mind ones that are centered specifically around
the kids' experience.
Yeah. Mine would have been Jojo Rabbit, because I feel like that's probably the most prominent one, or like
Jojo Rabbit,
at least the most recent that I've seen that centers around that. And that was still, what was that, like 2016, 2017?
It was 2019.
Time is a flat circle. It doesn't matter.
Anything before 2020 is the same year.
It's lost.
They're all the same year, basically.
Yeah.
So Adam, what did you have?
The only question I had was, I guess from like the scene I talked about, would you have fought harder to keep him off the front lines as a soldier? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's the real question of this movie, and it's hard because everybody's kind of desperate, right? Like, I think it's very easy for me to sit here and just say absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, in reality, I have no idea if if the kid, like, I think along with these guys, would have said like, okay, we got to get this kid out of here.
Yeah.
But he pushes back so hard that it makes it really difficult. And that's kind of the part that's hard. I mean, I like to think I would have been more adamant about getting him out of there and more proactive about doing it. But I really can't say.
Yeah. Well, and he's made it back before. So like, there's a little bit of like, well, he kind of knows what he's doing, or like,
he's proven to be self-reliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also kind of for me, the part where he has lost his entire family, it's like at the end of the day, you know, he's gonna drop that. He's gonna drop that trump card and be like, "You can't tell me nothing." And I'm gonna be like, "Well, shit, I really can't." Like, you know, I don't. And so it's in the middle of war, you have a kid like that raised in it, a whole family gone. He likes the front lines and protests violently when you try to say we're gonna send you away.
He scolds them basically, like he's their superior officer.
You know, it'd be tough. You've got your own stuff you're going through. You're just trying to survive. You're seeing people and your friends die every day, you know? So it's like, how much
effort are you really going to put in? You've said your piece.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's not going, he's not going.
Yeah. Interesting kind of moral question there, a dilemma situation.
Thanks,
that he
Adam.
presents.
Make me think.
You're welcome. I thought we'd spruce up the episode.
Yeah.
Could we have let this kid die? Okay, on to observations and musings. I had one that I just kind of wanted to go back to the comment I made earlier about how well I think this movie balances just how like jaded and like grown up he's had to become with the fact that he is just still 12 years old. And one really cool way that I thought they did that was how he still wants like all of their approval.
Yeah.
Like the one guy I think leaves and he's just like furious that he didn't say goodbye or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Colin, I think it is.
But that part I just thought was another really nice touch of he's just a 12-year-old who wanted this like father figure of his to say goodbye when he was leaving because he's lost everybody who's important to him and he needs to he kind of treats like every interaction with somebody like it might be if they're separating, like it might be the last time he'll see somebody.
Yeah.
And all of that was done really well. Then there was a scene where they're kind of back in the bunker where I mentioned earlier, where like kind of the way he has him framed. If he's like, he has him like his head above some of the military guys. If he's kind of like, for whatever reason, in a place where he feels like he can kind of dictate the terms of the conversation and might have a little more know-how or knowledge than they do. And then when it gets to like more emotional stuff, he kind of comes back and he's back below him. And I just thought that was all done really, really well.
Yeah. That's genius. Yeah. No, I have, we've already talked about how he gets so pissed whenever they try to send him away. Just a fiery performance. Really well done to convey that. What's the lead kid's name?
I almost said Ivan.
Yeah, no.
It's Nikolai Burliev.
Yeah, Nikolai Burliev. I mean, just to be able to portray so much, kind of like, you know, with Paper Moon, a lot of it was the stoicism that Tatum O'Neal and kind of the, you know, not, you know, like holding it all in and kind of just like the face and stuff. And but with this performance, it's just from the very beginning, he is just so adamant, fiery, crazed that he wants to stay at the front lines. And I thought that was really well, and juxtaposed with the flashbacks where we see what he's like as a normal kid, just like laughing and running around. And then I had when Colin almost falls getting into the boat.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Don't know if that was planned or what, but that was great. That was a great little detail. Very small little detail.
This kid is in Andrei Rublev, or was.
Yeah.
Really?
As well, yeah. And another Russian World War II movie in 1986. So presumably he's like an actual soldier then.
And then also he when he takes a shot, they don't make a big deal about it, but he does take a shot in this movie. It's like, all right, last movie, Tatum O'Neal smoking cigs. This movie, kids taking shots.
What kind of drugs is the kid in? Where's the friend's house going to be doing?
I know, we're going to be doing
just
slap it
our heroin, tie it off, and let's heat up some spoons. Like let's.
Oh man. And then there was one particularly also when the bombing scene, when there's a bombing going on and everyone's trying to, and that's like in the trench with him, and the other guys are kind of like, I don't know, I can't remember what they say to him, but he very defiantly is just like, I'm not afraid. It's just like, God dang, kid. That was great. And then also there was another point where there's an older soldier, they're talking, and he kind of does like the cobra pose, and he's just like, what am I, a little boy? And then it cut to Ivan on the ground in the same pose, like looking up at the ceiling. Just little detail. Just little details.
Yeah.
Loved it.
You know, I didn't know how to rate this movie when it ended because it's just tough. But talking about it more, like, it's just so well made.
It's and
that's
so every little thing is done with purpose.
Yeah, and dedication and the craft of all. I mean, all the sets even look really good. Like the attention to detail in every shot. It's like he clearly was like, well, we should move it a little bit here because this is a better look. And then like when they get in the boat and do all that stuff, like some of the I would just call them nature scenes, but the shots of like the bombed out forest and the river and the city, the town and stuff that they're in, just showing all of that. Like it's very clear. Like, and I've got a tidbit about one of the things that is shown, but it's just done so well.
It feels, we don't, there's a lot of war movies, where they show both sides or they have characters on both sides or whatever. But in this, the enemy, the Germans are so just kind of faceless and kind of, they're just like out there. They're just something. They're just beyond that ridge, or they're just through that fog. And every once in a while they shoot a flare or they shoot at you, but then they're just out there. And
we barely even see any. I kind of wonder if Nolan used this as a bit of a inspiration for Dunkirk, where you literally never see the Germans.
Yeah. But I thought that was really well done too, because then there's one point where the guy's hiding in the woods and like a group of 4 Nazi soldiers walks by, and that's for sure like the closest and the realist, where it's like, oh shit, those are like Nazi soldiers right there.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh fuck.
Like, I know we were gonna get this close to any of them.
Yeah. Well, because you never really are sure like how big the river is. Like they talk about it as if it's like this, like if it's super deep or if it's super wide, like how tough it is to cross. Clearly, like they're shooting flares and they're shooting, and you can see, but like you never really have a great, to me, understanding of like how difficult it was for Ivan to come across. Like clearly it was hard, but like once they go back, they're like they get what looks like halfway there, so he can sneak around and take whatever path he went to come to their side. So it's like they're only halfway there, and there's still patrols going on. Like there's just it's kind of marshy too, because they're walking on it, but it's also like there's grass sticking out, there's trees sticking out of the water all the time. Like it's
I wonder if Nolan got some inspiration, or no, Nolan didn't do 1917. Who did 1917? Mendes. If he got some inspiration with the flare thing over with like the lighting, what you can do with that. Kind of the constant omnipresent nature of it. Yeah, that was really good.
Someone's always watching to keep an eye on it. Yeah.
All right, is it time for tidbits, Adam?
I think it's time for tidbits.
Tidbits. So obviously this is Tarkovsky's first major film. This movie is based on the short story Ivan by Vladimir Bogomolov. I'm sorry, I'm butchering all these Russian names.
We've nailed every single one so far.
Tarkovsky wrote in his book Sculpting in Time later that he did not find the book Ivan very good, but said that stories that were not well written were easier to adapt into film.
So that is fascinating to me.
That's a great quote.
Yeah,
that's a great quote.
So he clearly made something impeccable out of that, and who knows like how good that is. I haven't read it. I don't think any of us have read Ivan. But to make this, it's a 95-minute movie, just a quick hour and a half. Like, it's got so much meaning. It's got so much more behind it that I think is just truly powerful. In 2009, the film's opening was shown on Cartoon Network one morning. So that scene of him, the dream sequence waking up in the barn, was shown on Cartoon Network one morning due to the channel accidentally having its signal switched with Turner Classic Movies, which was showing the film at the time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so we were, I don't know, like 18.
Oh, Mom, I think there's a cuckoo up there.
There's got to be like a few kids somewhere who saw that, like never told their parents, and like then as adults have just been like trying to figure out what the hell that movie was.
Yeah. Or like told a couple of people, be like, that didn't happen.
It must have been a Disney movie, right? It must have been a Disney movie. I was watching a kids channel. It must have been like some old Disney movie that starts this way.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no Disney movie that starts like that.
So that was fun. And then because there's not too much out there about this. This one is, I think, probably the most fascinating out of all this. Tarkovsky shows real footage of occupied Berlin.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, he does at the end.
Yeah, including the charred corpse of Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's minister of propaganda, and the bodies of his Goebbels, whatever Goebbels, Goebbels. There's no R, so I don't pronounce an R. But either way, Hitler's minister of propaganda, and the bodies of his 6 children murdered by their parents in Berlin in May 1945.
So that was actually real.
Yeah, so that was actually Goebbels and his kids that they murdered.
I thought for a second that it was so different. I was like, is this real footage he's just throwing in the end here?
Just hijacked it. Was like, we're going to use that.
And then you got to think again, 1962, the wounds and the emotions of the war are still fresh.
Very fresh.
The Russian movie. They're like, fuck the Germans. We hate you. And so, we're going to, you want to see some footage? And then you got to think about because the Russians got to Berlin first, I believe, right?
I think
so. You got to think there's a lot of footage that we have never seen that the Russian government just has of what they saw and what they found there. And so you got to think, how did that footage, that footage must have been approved. There must have been such a long process for him to use that. And then the Russian government was like, yeah, you can show that.
The trade-off for being $500,000 under budget.
Yeah. I'll give you $500,000.
You can
really show Goebbels charge.
We'll shorten the movie by an hour and a half, and we're done now.
Piss on Goebbels' grave.
Yeah, seriously. Kind of a little, parting
shot. Those are the main ones I had. I think for a movie that came out in 62, obviously not that much being known about it. It's incredible, and I think some of those things are just wild.
Yeah, so, for sure. All right,
that's it.
I believe it's time. The moment we've all been waiting for. Adam, would you like to lead us in? It's time for the McCabe coat of excellence.
Excellent.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. And at the end of each episode, we like to give out McCabe's coat. We're big fans of the movie McCabe and Mrs. Miller here at Exploring Cinema, particularly his coat. So we, like the green jacket at the Masters, like to give out a coat to anybody involved with the movie who we think exhibited excellence. We don't have to give out a coat. We can each give out one. Who's giving out a coat?
I can
Ivan's childhood.
I can start, and I think the obvious choice is Tarkovsky. However, I think I'm going to give it to the guy who played Ivan, Nikolai Berliev. I think what a performance from this type of movie. There's no way nailing this is an easy thing to do. And then working with a first-time director, it's very somber, bleak, sad, all of these things. He does a great job. He's somehow simultaneously lively enough, like a child. I mean, as you would be, but then he does have that anger, that burning desire to just have revenge, and that you cannot be stopped. And it's as forceful as some of the soldiers could be. You know what I mean? So the duality of that, I think, was done very well. And he was 15 years old, probably, or 12 years old.
Sure. And he had to get down in the muck and in the water and in the grime for this role. I mean, he's it's a commitment.
They had to swim across rivers.
For goodness sakes. And they didn't have money for safety equipment back then in the Soviet Union. It was like, if you get swept away, they need to find a new actor.
I'm also giving him the coat.
Nice. You're both giving it to the lead actor. What's his name one more time?
Oh, God.
Nikolai Berliev.
Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
Nice.
I feel like Tarkovsky will have other opportunities.
Yeah. That's also what I'm thinking. This is
great. I should have almost used this as my opening statement, but I cannot imagine watching Andrei Rublev now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's over 3 hours long, and if it's just like this, but like twice, like it, I don't know.
Yeah.
It became more daunting to me after watching Ivan's Childhood.
I can't do it again.
And like how much he packs into these 90 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does. And well, that's great. I'm glad that he's getting 2 coats, because I am giving mine to Tarkovsky. I feel like the performance, of course, lead performance is great. All the performances are really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think from the very beginning, the vision, putting it all together, the pacing, just the commitment from the very beginning. And then even how we just talked about the decision to put real footage of Goebbels' charred corpse in at the end. I mean, for a debut in 1962,
that's how you win the.
That is how you win the. Really went for it. He really went for it. So yeah, and then just that ending is so beautiful. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Andrei Tarkovsky. I'm sure there will be many more coats he'll get from us in the future, but it starts now. So.
All right. Closing statements. I guess I just kind of did mine. Like, this is just so dense, it makes his other like really long movies more daunting to me. But I now know that like I'm gonna, more than before, like I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, like the artistic value will be there. You know that now. It doesn't make it, but it is dense and heavy. Okay, my closing statement is you only have to watch the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes to see the beauty. A story about lost innocence that feels way ahead of its time. And I hope this leads us to watching more Tarkovsky movies.
Damn, mine's not nearly structured. I was going to say I liked this enough to have to view more Tarkovsky, and I love the kind of the existentialism in this, like during war. And I'm very excited to actually go explore more of that, even if it is a over 3 hour, dense movie about sad things and dark material and all that kind of the heavy stuff of life.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in checking out more of his work.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. Yeah. I'm glad you guys both liked it. I'm glad you guys both saw kind of that his style, and just in general, he's a very, very talented director. Yeah, lives up to the hype.
Insanely well made.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
Adam.
Yeah.
I believe it's your turn to put a wrap on the show.
It is. So many quotes, but I'll take this one.
All right. Go for it, Adam.
A war is no place for children.